The Ernie Bedlam stories. Riverview. Ernie first lost his head at Riverview when he was 10 years old. It happened on a roller coaster called the Fireball. The Fireball had a tunnel at the bottom of the first hill. Ernie thought he glimpsed an older gal from school who had caught his fancy 3 cars ahead. He stood up for a better look, and sure enough, the rim of the tunnel took his head right off. At the time, he thought that was kind of cool. He'd become an urban legend before his teens. Well, God didn't see it that way, and at the pearly gates said, "Oh no, Ernie, I got plans for you," and rejecting him like Charlie Tuna, sent him back to the amusement park for more fun. Seems like authority and Ernie never played in the same sandbox. His older sister made him go on the Wild Mouse later in the day. They said, "Ernie, if you don't get back in the saddle now, you never will." Ernie pointed out it was a mouse, but that didn't seem to matter. On the third turn, the wild mouse flew right off the track into a branch of the Chicago River. An angel grabbed Ernie by his hair. He still had a little at 10. The angel said, "Not yet. God has plans for you." Ernie's oldest sister was all set to go to the prom. She had gotten her hair done, her nails done, her toes done, and a new push-up bra, and was ready for pictures to be taken by the inflatable pool in the backyard. Why Mom and Dad wanted commemorative pictures, Ernie couldn't figure out. The older neighbor boys told Ernie if a guy had to rent a tuxedo, get a corsage, pop for dinner, and mow the lawn to borrow the car to go to the big dance, he was going to get a little. And if indeed was also the star quarterback, he was going to get a little more than a little. Ernie pushed his sister into the pool. His parents did nothing to stop his sister from chasing Ernie all around the backyard with a butcher knife, usually intended for turkey carving. She was just about to impale Ernie when God tripped her. She fell into a muddy puddle, and God said, "Not yet." Ernie, not yet. Ernie was confused. He was just trying to save his sister's honor. When Ernie was 16, he was at a big rock festival in Goose Lake, Michigan. He had just picked up his stuff from a counseling job at a summer camp. He couldn't take it. The whole world was grooving. They had landed a golfer on the moon, and Ernie was teaching snotty rich kids how to make nurse corners. Ernie wasn't the guy for that job. He knew. He was too important. Ernie always felt he was too important when it came to real work. He was getting gas when 2 motorcycles pulled up. 2 guys with 2 girls, holding onto their waists with free love and passion, just like in the Elvis movies. Ernie asked, "Where are they going?" One guy said, "We're going to rockin' in the free world." Well, Ernie was always a sucker for anything free and said, "Can I follow?" The hot brunette said, "Sure, honey." Well, Ernie thought it wasn't the first time he'd lost his head and followed. Ernie got to the rock festival, left the car in back of a gas station on some road, walked a couple miles, climbed a fence, and saw about 300,000 kids having a real good time. Somehow Ernie became very interested in the oral history of the place and started smoking and toking and swallowing everything because he'd heard that's what rock and roll was about. It was clear that what goes up must come down didn't apply. Ernie kept getting higher and Sly Stone higher until he felt like the drummer from Santana in the Woodstock movie. This certainly wasn't Ernie's backyard. He lost his mind, perhaps his head, and ended up outside bathroom facility. He was real buzzed and disoriented and asking for some enlightenment. He must have blacked out because the next thing he knew, he awoke next to a lake, naked, in a sleeping bag next to a naked girl. Oh my, I'm a long way from Kansas, thought Ernie. The girl awoke and smiled at him and said, "How you feeling?" "Better, I hope." Ernie said, "I feel good. I feel good. I feel good. How'd I get here?" She said you were in trouble and asking for help. So I decided to help you. Ernie wondered how much help he got. One didn't want to miss out on his big moment. She said, "Don't worry. We just got naked and crashed. Your future's still ahead of you," she grinned. Later it got dark and they were dancing to the music along with 300 other kids. And the girl looked at Ernie and said, "Make love to me." Ernie stammered and said, "I'd really like to, but there seems to be a few people around." The girl frowned at Ernie and said, "If a woman calls you to her bed, you must go." "Well, hell," said Ernie. "Marching orders are marching orders." And they curled up under his coat for about 5 minutes, and Ernie emerged a non-virgin and feisty. Ernie took some more oral history and began to think he was an eagle. He eyed a light tower and began to climb. He reached the top and felt he could fly. After all, he'd lost his virginity, but in his altered state had thought he had sprouted wings. He looked over the vast crowd and soared into space like a rocket ship. "Houston, we've got a problem." As Ernie hurled toward the ground, an angel tapped Ernie on the shoulder and said, "Sorry, I'm afraid you're not going to make it even to the 27 Club. God told me to tell you, lose your head more than 3 times, you're out." Ernie woke up from his dream before he hit the ground, went to church, and looked for charity work. Feeling an idle mind was okay, despite what anyone says. Well, these are our readings of the first of many Ernie Bedlam stories. We encourage the reader to laugh. We encourage the reader to be amused. We encourage readers to stay away from bridges. We don't want anyone to jump. Ernie didn't want to jump. Thank you for listening. Oh, Ernie doesn't like to work. I don't like to work. Any contributions that you'd like to send will not make me unhappy. But more importantly, it won't make my wife unhappy. I like it when my wife's not unhappy. She likes me better. She cooks better. She cleans better when I have money in my wallet. I think that's a little bit universal. But then again, I think Ernie's a little bit universal. Keep reading. Keep reading. Always keep reading. Thank you.